know how Republicans love to talk about the rhinos, you know what I'm talking about? Where, they're Republican in name only. They're not actually Republican. They might even be secret liberals. You can't trust them. Party switchers. Well, Texas just served up some irony, okay? And so I want to talk about the Texas Railroad Commission. I know, not a super sexy topic, right? But trust me, you're going to want to stay with this one. Despite the name, by the way, they're not actually about trains, really at all. The Texas Railroad Commission is actually the 3-member board that regulates oil and gas in the great state of Texas. Every well, every pipeline, every fracking operation. If you drill it, spill it, or burn it in Texas, these people are supposed to be the cops on the beat, which means this commission is actually one of the most powerful fossil fuel regulators in the country and has been run by Republicans and industry insiders for years. Enter Katherine Culbert. Katherine Culbert is a process safety engineer with experience in the oil and gas industry. Now, originally, she had filed to run for Texas Railroad Commissioner as a Democrat. She even raised money through ActBlue. That is the main Democratic fundraising platform. So donors gave her money under the impression that, oh, she's an engineer, she's a Democrat. Maybe she's running to clean up the most captured oil and gas regulator in Texas. And then, plot twist, she announces she's switching parties and will be running as a Republican instead. Same person, same race, same office, the same oil and gas background. But now, all of a sudden, she realizes the best way to serve Texas is to join the Republican Party. Now, on social media and in statements to the media, she tried to spin it as just, I want bipartisan leadership. I want to go beyond partisan lines. But let's be real. In Texas politics, especially for something as niche and low information as the railroad commissioner, bipartisan leadership is pretty much a convenient euphemism for, I looked at the math and thought, I might have a better shot running and winning in the party that already owns this office. Oh. Meanwhile, there is an actual Democrat in the race, former state representative John Rosenthal, also an engineer with oil field experience, running as a straight-up Democrat and not trying to play party musical chairs. So on the one side, you've got a GOP-run commission that has spent years letting the industry regulate itself, because that always turns out great. A revolving door between regulators and the oil companies that they're supposed to police. Again, this is just a natural consequence, right, of this corruption. Communities in Texas that are dealing with pollution, flaring, leaks, and explosions, while the commission looks the other way, and they're paid to do so. And in that mess, instead of clearly siding with reform, Culbert decides, you know what? You know what this captured regulatory body needs? Another Republican, another corrupt Republican. But she wants points for being bipartisan. Yes, bipartisanship, one of the biggest scams in American politics today. Because whenever they talk about bipartisanship, usually it's them getting together to screw the rest of us. Now, the kicker here, though, is the donors. And that's the real big betrayal. Because, look, yeah, we know that a lot of politicians are just liars, they're opportunists, or they're grifters, whatever, right? We get that, and we understand that. But the real issue here is the fact that she got all these donations from Democrats and then straight up betrayed them. Now, is this illegal? The fact that she, ran as a Democrat and people gave her money through ActBlue on the assumption that she was running against a Republican, and trying to break up the complete Republican rule of this commission? Well, those same donors, by the way, woke up and found that their money helped launch a Republican campaign for that seat. So you understand why people are mad, okay? But it's not illegal. Is it ethical? No. That's another story, though. Look, this isn't some school board race with, few policy stakes outside of that local school board, which, by the way, I'm not dismissing school boards. I think those are really, really important, right? But in Texas, energy regulation is really, really important too. Okay? This is about whether or not oil and gas companies are forced to clean up their own messes, like they should, whether communities get their poisoned air and water, whether the state even pretends to care about the climate, which they don't, or just keeps rubber stamping permits, which, of course, that's what they're going to do. And when the person asking for your money and your vote literally flips the side after cashing the check, that tells you something about whose interests are really at the center of this person's campaign. If your core principle, stated core principle, is bipartisan leadership, you don't have to switch parties. It is possible to work across the aisle. Okay, you can say, hey, look, I'm a Democrat. I will listen to Republicans, or vice versa. But switching parties after taking a whole bunch of money from donors, misleading them, that is not about unity. That is not about reaching across the aisle. It is about access. Access to Republican primary voters. Access to Republican donors in oil and gas. Which, by the way, as a Democrat, she could have gotten that money from oil and gas too. I'm looking at Henry Cuellar. Okay, look at all these so pro fossil fuel Democrats. Okay, I mean, look, Joe Manchin, pretty famous. Okay, owned coal companies, was a Democrat for a while. So come on, but no, they want access to more donors, to the political machine that already owns that commission. And this is the bigger story here, okay? The problem in Texas isn't just that Republicans run the Railroad Commission. It's that the fossil fuel industry has so much power that people will literally change their jersey mid-game, try to stay in their good graces, okay? You're not just voting for a person with an engineering background. You're voting for whether that person is willing to stand up to the most powerful industry in the state, or whether they'll tell you whatever party label they think will get them the job. Okay, so the next time you hear Republicans, cry about rhinos or whatever, the Democrats, deep state, just remember this. In Texas, a candidate literally raised money as a Democrat to run against Republican control of oil and gas regulation, and then flipped to the Republican Party to try to sit on top of that same system. If this video helped you cut through the BS and see what is really happening, then smash that like button. Every single like pushes back against the right-wing propaganda machine. I can't do this work without your support. So please check out my Patreon. Link is in the description of this video. For a few bucks a month, you can help keep this channel independent from corporate BS. So hit subscribe, hit that notification bell, and let's keep fighting for democracy and against fascism together.